It starts with privatization. Privatization is the process of converting a public sector enterprise to private sector. A private sector enterprise takes over business from government sector or public sector. The process is called privatization. Now, privatization is going to have some advantages and some disadvantages. There are some arguments for privatization and there are some arguments against privatization. What are the benefits? The benefits are number one, the tax revenue for the government is going to increase because now being a private sector enterprise, it is going to earn a lot of profit and it will pay uh, corporation tax and other taxes, as a result of which tax revenue will be generated for the government, and that tax revenue can be used in various development activities like building of roads, communication networks, hospitals, public parks. All the money generated from taxation can be used in these kind of activities. Moving on to the second advantage of privatization. When privatization takes place, these businesses have their main objective of profit maximization and they tend to grow a little more than the public sector organizations. As a result of it, more employment opportunities are going to be created. The business activity is going to flourish much more, which means that there's going to be opportunities for people to progress in their lives and the standard of living of general masses is going to improve. Skill development of general masses also takes place, and because the business activity is increasing, that is why exports are going to increase and imports are going to decrease as a result of privatization. Moving on, we are going to talk about some more advantages of privatization. Now, when privatization is taking place, it means that generally speaking, competition is going to be tougher in the market and people will try to improve their quality according to the privatized business, because these privatized businesses tend to be large scale enterprises because they are taking over uh, a corporation from government, so it's not easy for them. So once they are going to take over some private sector business, they are going to bring in a lot of innovation. The quality of output or services is going to improve as well. So some advantages of privatization. There are quite a few arguments against privatization. A lot of people talk against it because they believe that there is exploitation of workforce. The workforce is forced to work a little more, sometimes beyond the normal working hours, and they are pushed sometimes beyond their limits, and they are treated like machines. And the government in the government sector, there is still some leverage which is provided to the staff in the form of extra benefits like medical benefits and provident funds and other things, whereas the private sector tends to be quite miserly in terms of the extra benefits which are provided to their employees. Furthermore, these are large-scale enterprises, so they tend to become monopolies very quickly, and they tend to sweep small businesses out of the market. So that is another problem of privatization. Privatization may also uh, result in high prices being charged to the general masses. As a result of it, their standard of living may be affected negatively in some cases as well. We move on. This thing, public-private partnership, is not in our course anymore. And after that, we are going to talk about free trade and globalization. Free trade is when trade between different countries, between different regions is taking place without any trade barriers. What are the trade barriers? The restrictions imposed on imports and exports of goods is basically what is termed as a trade barrier. So trade barriers, when there is absence of trade barriers, when trading activities are taking place between different regions or different activities, and when there are no trade barriers, uh, when the trading activities are taking place, in that case, that kind of trade where no trade barriers are present is called free trade. Globalization is a phenomena where we are talking about situations uh, where the movement of goods and movement of services and movement of even workforce is taking place freely between different countries of the world. That phenomena where free movement of goods, services, and workforce is taking place throughout the world or between different countries of the world is called globalization. Now, globalization brings in a lot of benefits for countries who want immigration, especially, or who want to have access to all kinds of goods and services. Globalization has been made possible through free trade, but then again, free trade is not something which exists all over the world. A lot of countries, they believe in protectionism as well. What is protectionism? Protectionism is the process of safeguarding the local trade, or it is the process of promoting local trade instead of promoting free trade and globalization. Countries want to look at their own benefits of their own local industry. They want to promote their local industry, and that phenomena of promoting the local industry or businesses or local trade is called protectionism. Okay, in order to implement protectionism, in order to promote the local businesses, the countries of the world, they are going to use different trade barriers. The trade barriers, they include tariffs. Tariffs are the taxes imposed on imports, so that people are going to find the imports expensive. Quotas are restrictions, physical restrictions imposed on imports mostly, but sometimes voluntary export quotas are there as well, which are the physical restrictions imposed on exports.